Aloha, welcome to my 1,000 subscriber celebration Q&A and giveaway. So thank you all for joining me today. My name is Marilyn Maya, formerly known as the Baby Boomer Booktuber, and recently I've been able to get to that point where I have 1,000 subscribers. So thank you everyone who has watched my videos, who've commented, who've liked. It's so important. And all the friends that I've made. Today I'm going to do a Q&A, but like I said, stay tuned for the end because there's a giveaway, book giveaway. And I have to say that, I'm supposed to say that YouTube is not part of this giveaway. I never heard anyone say that, but it's said to say that. So I have a Q&A from many subscribers. If I get any more, I'll do a part 2, but I think that this is going to be it. So the first question is from Jody Coghill, a subscriber. Congratulations on 1,000 subscribers. What book has left the most long-lasting impression on you? One you still think about often, even if you read it a while ago. That doesn't necessarily have to be a favorite. I'm so glad you asked this question because it made me do some thinking. And it's a book that I read when I was very young. It's out of print. It would cost a lot of money for me to get it, but I was able to get it on an app online. And I was really happy, but I still, it brought back so many memories. I don't know if I'll have a cover, but if I do, I'll leave it here. It's it's To Build a Land by Sally Watson, and I'm going to talk about that later in another question. And the second one is, of course, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, because it was by Betty Smith, because it was my neighborhood 100 years ago or more now. And I loved Francie, the main character, and I loved the story. I was able to really, put myself into that story in some ways. And yeah, so those are the two that stayed in my mind all this time. Jack from Spread Book Joy. Hi, Jack. She asked quite a few questions. So I'll start with, what is the most surprising book or books you've read since joining BookTube? And there have been quite a few surprising books, but the most surprising I talked about already in my last video, and that was Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, because it's a book I thought I would never read. It's science fiction. It's maybe the first science fiction book possibly written. It was written by a woman. It's very psychological. It's very gothic. And I read it with a wonderful subscriber, Sarah, and we really took it slow. I read the annotated version, and it made me want to read more annotated versions of books. We just loved it. We just loved it. It was a reread for her, but for me it was the first time. Another question she asked is, what authors are you now reading that you wouldn't have picked up before BookTube? So many. And just to give a visual, I picked up a few books, and one is Barbara Pym, who I think when I was young, I saw her name in the library, but never thought it was for me. And as you see, I've bought, I think Jane and Prudence was my favorite Barbara Pym this year. And it was just wonderful. And I just read her last book on Kindle, and it was delightful, A Few Green Leaves. But yeah, that's one author. Edna O'Brien, The Country Girls Trilogy, that's another that I want to read more of. I've only read these three, but I want to read more by Edna O'Brien. And of course my Cora Sandell in the Alberta Trilogy. That is my favorite books since I joined BookTube. So that's just a few. but there's many more. Her other question is, besides reading, writing, and dancing, what other hobbies or skills have you tried over the years? And is there anything else that you would like to try or learn? Lots of love. Yes, I've tried a lot of things in my life. Skills. I would, learning French, traveling on a budget, that's skills I already have, but I'm still honing those skills. Cooking, I think that's a skill I already have. I don't know if I want to learn anymore, but trampolining, just jumping on my trampoline, which I don't know why, but people are surprised when I tell them that. It's not a real trampoline, it's a rebounder it has a bar, but I dance to my salsa music, and that question is going to come up later. So yeah, you have to keep on learning no matter how old you are. If you don't keep on growing and learning, your life becomes boring. And I always try to get away from a boring life. I think that was my goal in life. Gina, from Gina Stan Your Books. Hi Gina, she nicknamed me capital MMM. So I like to use that. My question is, will your partner make an appearance in one of your videos? It seems like they are a big support for you. Also, how is learning how to do your own editing going? My partner, Jackson, who films me, does the editing, was in one of my videos. He was in the beginning of a introduction once. And he's pretty shy, so I don't think he'll be in any more of my videos, but you never know. And editing, it's not one of my skills, but I still want to find a program that is made for very non-technical people. If I ever find that program, I will edit my videos. Now I just try not to make any mistakes so I can make it easier for him to edit. Okay, the next question is from Debra in Book In with Debra. By the way, I'm going to have all of these channels listed below in the description box. She said, I would love to know the top 3 books you have read since starting your channel that you would recommend to others. Now, I have a caveat here. Well, she has a caveat that you would recommend to others. A lot of books that I read, I don't think many other people, according to Goodreads, would put them high on their list. But I did pick a few books, and I think most people will like the translated Alberta trilogy. I think it's a really good read for anybody. And Excellent Women by Barbara Pym. I'm not sure if I have, it wasn't my favorite. In fact, I have it somewhere, but it wasn't my favorite Barbara Pym, but it's a lot of people's favorite Barbara Pym book. So I would recommend that one. And Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. And I'll try to have the cover over here. I don't think I own the book anymore. But yeah, I had a very special reading experience reading that with Nikki from Red Dot Reads. And yeah, it was very surprising, very touching, and I learned a lot too. Okay, now Alba, my Puerto Rican friend, she says, what's your #1 all-time favorite salsa song? That was a hard one, Alba. As you know, I used to be a salsa dancer in Spain and in Hawaii and Nueva York. So I had to pick songs that you can dance to. I remember my father's favorite song was In El Viejo San Juan, in old San Juan. And yeah, I still think of him when I hear that song, but it's not a salsa song. So right now, my favorite salsa song to jump to walk to dance to is called Timbalero by Willie Colon featuring Hector Lavoe, who was El Cantante. If you've seen that film, El Cantante, the singer, with Jennifer Lopez, and you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, timbales are a pair of shallow drums that are played with drumsticks, also popular in Latin American music. And someone who mastered the timbales was Tito Puente, who most people know who he is, and he was very famous. He passed away a few years ago, but I got to see him in person. So that's, you know, I would say that's one of my favorite songs. Another favorite song is called Un Verano en Nueva York, A Summer in New York by El Gran Campo de Puerto Rico. And what I liked about it starts out slow, not slow, but you know, just a regular salsa tempo, and then it goes really into a fast salsa song. So it was perfect for a performance. And my last performance, I danced La Malanga by Eddie Palmieri, and I did put that in one of my videos. I might put a snippet at the end. So that was my last, I think it was 8 years ago or more. And there's also a song that they used to play at I think every dance at the end. It was Vámonos pa'l Monte, and I think that was also by Eddie Palmieri, but I could be wrong. So sorry I couldn't pick one, Alba, but you can understand. Okay, so Berna and Nikki both asked similar questions. Berna from Berna's Bookish Adventures and Nikki from Red Dot Reads. Berna said, my question is, what countries have you visited, and how being aware of other cultures affected you as a reader and a writer? Wow. I mean, I could tell you a whole book on that. I practically wrote a whole book on that. I've always been interested in other cultures, always, ever since I was a little girl. And through books, of course, and through pen pals, and my degree, my BA is in intercultural communication. Where have I been? Of course, my first trip was to Puerto Rico, and then to Spain, España, then to the UK, including Scotland, but not Wales and Ireland, Italy, but not Rome, Holland, or the Netherlands. Yeah, so, oh, I forgot Asia, which is the Philippines, Japan. Is that it? I think so, yeah. Philippines and Japan. And of course, I went to Hawaii when I was 26. And that goes into Kim from Middle of the Book March asked me, here's my question. When and how did you settle in Hawaii? When? That's a good question. It's August 23rd, 1976. How did you settle in Hawaii? Well, I got a one-way ticket with 2 children. I had a pen pal. I stayed with the pen pal for overnight, and then I found my own apartment because I was pretty loca like that. But the why, she didn't put why, and the why is very important. I was obsessed with Hawaii since I was 12, and I saw South Pacific, and I said to my friends, wherever that is filmed, that's where I'm going to live one day, and they all laughed at me. And at the end, the credits came and it said Kauai, Hawaii. And I have to say, I did actually, well, I came to Oahu, but I did actually live in Kauai. So it wasn't, as most dreams are, it didn't exactly turn out 100% the way I wanted it, but I'm very glad I came to Hawaii. And even though I left and came back for different places, this is my, as I said in my new book, my place of Ithaca. You know, it's my place. Okay, now, Tejaswi, I hope I'm saying Tejaswi Sawant said he had a few questions. When did you develop reading as a hobby? So I was introduced to books by my mother, who read to me, and I suggest that if you're a parent, reading to your child is wonderful. And I just picked up reading very early. And then when I found out about fairy tales and how it could soothe me and entertain me as an only child, that's how I started reading as a hobby, or as a lifestyle, I would put it. 2, if you can meet your fave author, what questions would you ask them? Okay, I pick Agatha Christie, and I'll ask her, how did you end all your books so wonderfully? I'm trying to end my memoir, but it's of course harder to end a memoir, but she wrote a memoir, so I should check that out. Number 3, which author's writing process would you like to see in action? Again, Agatha Christie, because she is such a good writer of, all her books are different. All her books have wonderful, maybe not all, but, she doesn't do the same trope over and over and over like she did And Then There Were None, and then she didn't stick to that and keep on doing it over and over. She went to other kinds of things and different characters. So yeah, I would love to ask her what her process was, but I think I kind of know by reading autobiographies by her and biographies about her that she sort of was just writing notes on pieces of paper. I can relate to that, and she was a genius. I mean, that's all I can say about that. This one was hard to figure out. Which bookish character do you wish to experience? That was a hard one because a lot of books that I read have characters that I don't wish to experience their life. So I thought of Phineas Fogg, Around the World in 80 Days, or Wendy Darling of Peter and Wendy, because he took her to Neverland, and they had a dog, Nana, and it was like a dream to have like Peter Pan, like almost like a big brother, take care of you. I mean, that was like a childhood wish of mine. So yeah, otherwise I don't want to live anybody else's life. Okay, so my wonderful subscriber Chris Sam asked, if someone asked you to compile a list of 5 books that you would recommend to a new reader, what would they be? Okay, so I think the top word here is new reader. So somebody who's new to reading maybe, or is a little younger. So of course I said A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, which I showed you. The Diary of Anne Frank, because it's a book that adults and children can both get something out of. Or The Chosen by Chaim Potok, for the same reason, but with boys in the 40s. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Jane Eyre, and I have a copy of Jane Eyre, and I want to do a reread of it. It's a beautiful copy by Norton Critical Edition, and I love the cover. I mean, it just shows just what I imagine what Jane Eyre looks like. What else did I, because she asked for 5 books. I'll try to put a cover of this, The Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. I read this in college in an African American studies class, and I really loved his writing and his experiences as being African American and feeling invisible and dealing with prejudice. So I recommend that book. And another book is When I Was Puerto Rican by Esmeralda Santiago. Though I didn't like her last book in the trilogy, I really loved her first book because it reminded me of when the first time I went to Puerto Rico. I was only 16, and the environment then reminded me of what I experienced, and coming from, well, she was born in Puerto Rico, then she went to New York. I was born in New York, but then I went to Puerto Rico, not to live. But I really think that book would be interesting to new readers. Then a question that I had the hardest time figuring out. If you can read only, and it's by Noob Readers and my friend Milas. It says, if you can read only one book for the rest of your life, which one would that be? I really couldn't think. I mean, maybe the Jewish Bible, the Holy Scriptures, the Tanakh. But then I thought, I haven't read too much Shakespeare, so what about the complete works of Shakespeare? That would keep me busy. And since I haven't read many of his plays and his sonnets, so that's the one I'll pick. Then Ingrid Fitz asked, do you have a favorite big mammoth book that is over 700 pages? Hers is Lonesome Dove. So I don't read many mammoth books, but when I was 11, now take this into consideration, 11, I read Gone with the Wind, and that was the longest book that I read. I loved it. I didn't think about controversy then. I thought about the story of Scarlett O'Hara, of Melanie, and all the characters, and, Rhett Butler. I wasn't thinking of, the time and the South, etc. The other book would be Woman in White. I'll try to have that over here too, by Wilkie Collins. I read that with, who did I read this with? Woman in White. I can't remember who I read it with, but I think I buddy read this. And I might have buddy read this with a group of people, or it might have been also Nikki comes to mind. Again, let me know if you read it with me. Okay, Ursula, from Ursula's Sods and Odds. What are the special books in your collection? I don't really, have that many books. I guess, the Holy Scriptures. This book is called The Ginger Tree. It's historical fiction, and it's my favorite because it was my mother's favorite book that I gave her. And it's a bittersweet story of love and betrayal in the Far East. And it's just a great book by Oscar Wynd. If you like historical fiction, I think you'd love this book. I mean, my mother loved it. And I don't really think she loved many historical fiction books. I mean, she used to read more modern classics, modern books. Another question she had is, do you have any dream books? For example, a book signed by a certain author, a first edition, or antique or out-of-print book. I'll try to find a copy of To Build a Land again, but I want to tell you the story about this. Yesterday I was able to download on my computer, and I had such strong feelings brought back when this was 1959, so I must have read it around 1960 when my library had it. It's out of print. You can get an old library copy for like $30. I might do that one day. I'd love to find an original, not a library, like a first edition. That would be great. But what is it about? Okay, so it hit all the, ticked all the boxes for me. Okay, 2 Italian siblings. I always wanted to have a sibling. Leo and Mia in post-war Naples live on the streets after their parents are killed. And I always wanted to have a big brother. So he takes care of her, and then this is after the war, and they're starving. And when I read one part when the Red Cross finally gets them hooked up with a Jewish organization, and they're eventually sent to Israel or Palestine at that time. And yeah, all of the characters. And I remember the part where, you know, she's starving and she's given a cup of hot chocolate, and she doesn't want to swallow it, Mia, because the taste, she wants it to last forever. She never tasted anything so good. And that brought back memories when I was 10 years old. So, yeah, I couldn't read it on my computer. I said, I need to have this book. So one day I will have this book. She also asked, do you have any favorite book accessories, bookends, or lap desks? No, I'm not into that kind of stuff. I maybe have one. People send me, you know, people on BookTube and, you know, just bookstores will send me a bookmark, or, you know, but no, I don't collect those kinds of things. And her last question is, what is your favorite library and bookstore you've ever been to? The favorite library has to be two. Well, there's two. One is, of course, my first library, the DeVoe Street Library in Brooklyn, which is the same library that Betty Smith went to when she was maybe even writing A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. Then, of course, it's the Brooklyn Public Library, Grand Army Plaza. That was a glorious, and probably still is a glorious library near downtown Brooklyn. It was gorgeous, it was clean, it had so many books. And at that time you couldn't ask for an interbook loan. You had to actually go to the library and see what they had, you know, and there was the card catalogs and everything. And then when I went to Minnesota, we lived in Minneapolis, Bloomington, and they had a Southdale library in Minneapolis that was just wonderful. That's where my daughter learned to love reading, with the Sweet Valley books, and so it has a lot of special memories for me. As for bookstores, there's too many to mention. Of course, Shakespeare and Company was wonderful, but so were the other bookstores that I was brought up with in New York. The small little mom and pop used bookstores, one that was in my neighborhood, that was where I became enthralled with Classics Junior, sort of comic books of classics. So, too many to mention. One in San Francisco, City Lights, was wonderful also. Okay, so another question, Nathan Fong. In fact, this is the last question. Aren't you happy? He said, do the Colbert questionnaire. So I'm going to do the last question of the Colbert questionnaire for my last question. Describe the rest of your life in 5 words. Health, family, kindness, friends, books. So that's the end of my Q&A. Now I want to show you the books for my giveaway. And I have 3. So all you have to do is tell me which book you want, and I'll send it to you. The first one, I'll be honest, I bought. It's a beautiful copy, and I couldn't get through it. It's H is for Hawk by Helen Macdonald. I know this is a favorite on BookTube, so I'm sure somebody will want this. This is a hardcover one, and it says it's the Costa Book of the Year for 2014, and yeah, it's really in great shape. The second book is, and this one I did read with Nikki from Red Dot Reads, it's The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I really enjoyed this book, but I don't think I'll reread it. So, and it's also in great condition. I bought all these 2 books, not brand new, but really in great shape. It's by Diane Setterfield, and in case you haven't read it, it's reclusive author Vida Winter, famous for her collection of 12 enchanting stories, has spent the past 6 decades penning a series of alternate lives for herself. Now old and ailing, she's ready to reveal the truth about her extraordinary existence and the violent and tragic past she has kept secret for so long. Calling on Margaret Leah, a young biographer troubled by her own painful history, Vida disinters the life she meant to bury for good. Disenters, that's a new word for me. I guess means she didn't enter, she enters it again. So it was great. If you want it, just leave me a comment, and the first person who wants it, I'll send it. You know, if there's more than one person, I'll do something in a hat or something, but just the first person who asks for it. The third one is a mystery, more of a mystery thriller. It's called Exquisite by Sarah Stovell, and I liked it okay, but I'm never going to read it again. And it's about Bo Luxton has it all. A loving family, a beautiful home in the Lake District, and a clutch of best-selling books to her name. Enter Alice Dark, an aspiring writer who is drifting through life with a series of dead-end jobs and a freeloading boyfriend. When they meet at a writer's retreat, the chemistry is instant, and a sinister relationship develops. Or does it? So those are the 3 books that for my giveaway. Just let me know. Please subscribe if you want the book, and please like. And I want to thank you all so much for a wonderful 2 years on BookTube, and for all of the people that just stop by, or the people that subscribe, of course, and the other booktubers that I've met. So I'm very grateful to all of you. So thank you so much, and let me know what you think about any of the books that I've talked about, or any of the questions. I'll have all the people's names down below, and I'll try to get a few of the covers so you can see the books. I believe, you know, like visually, you know, not just telling you what books I like, but really showing it to you. So thank you for joining my celebration, and I hope the next year will be happy and healthy for everyone, and I wish you all warm aloha breezes. Bye.